Hey, thanks for tuning into my video on whether or not President Trump is responsible for gas prices. And the reason why I'm making the video is because you get online, you go to Facebook, and especially here locally in Coldwater, Michigan, and you get so many people who start commenting about the fact that President Trump is the one who's responsible for the gas prices, or President Trump is responsible for the tax hikes in Michigan, or President Trump is responsible for everything, groceries, it doesn't matter what it is, he's to blame for the reason why. And then they point the finger at the Iran war, the conflict that's going on over in Iran. So what I'd like to do is set the record straight. And if you still want to post your comment, or you still want to believe what you want to believe, you're entitled to do so. If you want to take an uneducated guess and make it your opinion just so you can feel better about saying Trump is a piece of crap, then you go ahead and do so. It's entirely up to you. It basically shows the rest of us who are educated and look into researching for the reasons why gas prices go up or go down. It makes you look stupid. Period. And then, therefore, when you try to explain yourself, all you just want to do is get yourself into a circle of friends or a circle of people, especially online, and you start running your mouth. And it's just ridiculous. And so I read stuff and I post stuff or I respond to stuff, and I just wanted you people, those of you who put your laughing emojis on, and those of you who think it's really funny, to go ahead and trash the president and then say it's all his fault. Complain about the high price of groceries and gas and oil and what have you. Because you don't do the research, you're an idiot. Plain and simple. So let's look at the reason. Let's look at the dynamics of oil. Now, how many of you would say that? How much oil do you think the United States produces? Is the United States one of the top producing oil companies in the world? As a matter of fact, in last year and on record of going on a record for this year, the United States is the number one producing oil country in the world. Now, I know that seems hard to believe, but we produce more oil than any country on the face of the planet. And we ship more oil out all across the world. And so I know that's kind of hard for you to believe, because you're thinking, well, gosh, with all that oil, why in the world are our gas prices so high? Like here locally, $4.49, $4.38 a gallon. It's all over the place right now in Coldwater. But why wouldn't the pricing be lower if we are one of the largest, if the largest on the planet of oil producers, oil pumping oil and shipping oil, exporting oil out in the world? Well, I've gone over this a couple of times, and done videos before, and we'll reiterate it again, and we'll let you understand why, educate you, understand why. See, the refineries in the United States are not set up to take sweet crude or the cleaner crude of oil that we produce, that we pump, and that we ship out. That sweet crude goes all across Europe and even to Russia. It gets sold to China. It gets sold all over the place. And there are refineries that produce gasoline that use that cleaner oil. And so, therefore, that cleaner oil within the futures and the price per barrel. And we're going to go over exactly how a barrel of oil is broke down so that you understand what they do with it, why the price of gasoline, how we get from point A to point B in finishing the product where the gasoline is pumped into your car. But refineries all across the world have converted or are built now as refineries that will take the sweet crude, the Brent crude oil. And there's a futures market with that 3 months out. And then there's current pricing also that we see on a daily basis, which is tied to the futures market of 3 months out. So it's pretty simple. So if we manufacture all that oil and we pump all that oil, then the companies that own the oil companies that own the wells and do all the pumping are the ones making a lot of the money. And so you would think that if we had refineries like there are all across the world to refine gasoline from sweet crude, our gasoline would be cheaper. And it would be. It'd be considerably cheaper. So we have to use a much more, it's a much more thicker product. And that thicker product that we get is really unclean, but it's cheaper. And so we import some of that from Saudi Arabia and from other countries across in the Middle East. The majority of what we import comes from Saudi Arabia. And it's that thicker crude oil, which is used to break down and make gasoline and other distilled products from it. Diesel fuel, hydraulics, you name it. There's a lot of, and we're going to go over that here shortly, but there's a lot of things that are made from a 42-gallon barrel of oil. So because the refineries here in the United States are not converted, we're forced to use that type of oil and import that oil into the country, as a country, to have it changed into the refineries, sent to the refineries and changed into gasoline. Consequently, the refineries that are used to produce the gasoline and other oil products are relatively old all throughout the country, and they do break down. And when they shut down, it sends a spike cost factor throughout the region that they deliver gasoline to. So in Michigan and here and abroad, and we're right in the back door of Canada, how much oil do you think that we import from Canada, that we buy from Canada? I mean, we're talking just, and if the Keystone Pipeline had not been squashed by President Biden, and had it been started back up from President Trump, which it was, it would have been finished by now when Trump was elected, and we would have been looking at importing a lot more of our oil from Canada instead of relying on importing what we need from Saudi Arabia. But how much oil do you think we import from Canada on the overall picture from Canada? We import 60% of the oil that we use in this country to convert into oil products and gasoline. 60% of the oil we need, we import from Canada. Now here in Michigan, it's right on our back door. So the cost factor of importing it from Canada, how much would that be? I'm kind of getting ahead of myself too. And so I want to show you a little bit of proof here of what we're talking about. Let me show you. Let's go back to this is what oil closed at. Market summary crude oil futures. This is what oil closed at on Friday, $86.80 a barrel. So it was previous close the day before on Thursday was $83.59. So that means that 3 months from now, that oil that was purchased to be used will be delivered at $86.80 a barrel. Now, the oil that we're using right now, based on a preliminary time frame, which we're getting closer to the end of that, the oil we're using right now was purchased at $101 per barrel. So at $101 per barrel, gasoline would be close to $4.29 to $4.30 a gallon, which is where we are pretty much at throughout the nation. And that was 3 months ago. Now, we go back 3 months and we look at the fact of what was going on with the economy and what was going on with the Iran conflict. And the Iran conflict was just getting started. And so we have an issue psychologically with this Iran conflict and the war in Iran, the United States being involved with Israel to stop Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. But I want you to keep in mind, 60% of the oil that we need to make gasoline from is purchased from Canada. Now, I want to show you here what we pay for oil that comes from Canada. The closing price for Western Canadian Select, WCS, the primary heavy crude oil benchmark that the United States buys from Canada, was approximately $71.24 to $75.36 per barrel at the end of July 2026. So we're looking at between about $73 a barrel of oil that it closed on that price. And that's even the futures too for Canada, but it's been staying about that price, a little bit lower 3 months ago than what this price is reflecting here now in the market of being sold. So Canada is not jumping on the bandwagon and selling their oil at a benchmark price that the world trade the world trade markets are on selling oil with. So why is Canada selling their oil so much cheaper than what the Middle East is? Because we go back, we looked at what Friday's close was, and we looked at what it was 3 months ago, and oil from the Middle East was $30 more than what it was coming out of Canada. And so if Canada could produce more oil, and if Canada could deliver the oil at a much more faster pace, we wouldn't wouldn't have to rely on the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, or wherever we buy oil from. But we do rely on them. And of course, the geopolitics of that is investment, and President Trump recently going to the Middle East and getting $8, 9, 10, $12 trillion worth, $16 trillion worth of investments here in the United States. That money's got to come from somewhere, doesn't it? And so the markets that are driven by a computer and by analysis, even AI getting involved now in general markets in New York and Wall Street, the markets drive the price. And it's not the consumption, because the consumption of oil has actually gone down due to the increase in the price. The consumption has gone down. People aren't traveling the way they were. The jet fuel is down in price, as far as jet fuel is still way up in price, but people aren't traveling the way they were because they don't have the money. I mean, I went and got gas this morning, and had I filled up, it would have cost me $80 in a 16-gallon car. It would have been $80, close to $80. And so I put $20 in it, and I'll try to go whatever we need to do, or where we need to go locally in town, or if we have to make a run to Lansing or Battle Creek. If we have to make a run to Lansing or Battle Creek, then we're winding up putting more gas in the vehicle for the week. So when you're used to having a budget of around $35 to $40 on your vehicle, and that gave you a full tank of gas, you're spending a lot more money for gasoline, and many of you are. Many of you got pickup trucks, Hummers, you got large SUVs, and you're pumping $120 to fill up your vehicle, and it's a lot of money. So you don't go as many places as you'd like to go. But what I find strange is that we buy that oil from Canada for $71.24 to $75.36 per barrel. We buy it from them for that. But yet the gas prices that you see, and remember, I told you that those gas prices are based on futures. So if the futures that we purchased from Canada was the same price of what they are now, which they were, and 40% of the oil that we import was coming from Saudi Arabia and other different countries, then what's controlling the price over in Saudi, it isn't because of supply and demand. It isn't because the United States is using more oil or demanding more oil. There's a couple of reasons why the price is being driven in the Middle East. Of course, number one, everyone wants to blame President Trump. He's the reason why. We attacked Iran. We had no business attacking Iran, and the price of oil went up. Geopolitically, that may partly be true, but based on the emotional side and the psychological side, and the side that where the United States is an ally to Israel, we did not want Iran to become a nuclear-capable country. And so we went in and bombed the crap out of them. We're still bombing the crap out of them. And until they decide to not be a nuclear-armed country and come to the table and meet the deal with the demands that the United States is making, Trump is going to continue to bomb them. Period. Now, I know Iran was selling oil on the market prior to this conflict, when their sanctions had been lifted and when Obama was in office, the market was flooded with Iranian oil, and they had so much in reserves. They wanted to make the money with it, so they flooded the market, and it drove prices all around the globe down. Now, we do not import any oil from Iran. In fact, only 7% of the oil that we import from the Middle East travels through the Straits of Hormuz. 7%. But yet you would take a look at $4.38 a gallon for gasoline, and you ask yourself, why in the world is it so high? We did an analysis, and we said to Gemini, ChatGPT here with Google, as you see on the toolbar at the top, how much should gasoline be per gallon with oil at $86.80 per barrel? So with crude oil at $86.80 per barrel, a gallon of regular gasoline should cost roughly $3.20 to $3.50 a gallon at the pump under normal market conditions. All right? Understand what that means. Normal market conditions. The barrel math, 1 barrel of crude oil has 42 gallons of gasoline. 42 gallons of gasoline. And so, and the refining, the delivery of it, turning crude into shipping. I'm jumping ahead here. Why crude price sets as gas cost? So 1 barrel of crude oil has 42 gallons of oil, $86.80 per barrel. The raw oil in 1 gallon costs about $2.07. Refining and delivery, turning crude into fuel, shipping it and selling it adds costs. Refineries charge extra to make the fuel, and gas stations need profit. Kind of a generic blanket statement. Taxes, federal, state, and local government, and fixed taxes, often 40 to 60 cents or more per gallon, depending on your state. In Michigan now we're at 52 cents tax per gallon on the gasoline. So we can definitely see where the price, if it was $3.50 a gallon, and we see, okay, well, let's tack on another 52 cents with federal and state combined with Michigan, and then tack on to some excise taxes and federal taxes on top of it. That puts us at about our $4.10, 20, or 30 cent per gallon ratio. And that is based on futures market. So that means even now, 3 months from now, gasoline, unless major gas companies are willing to take a loss on the oil and the gasoline that's been produced that they've bought into, unless they're willing to take a loss on it, they're going to have to sell it at a higher price, even after the Iran conflict comes to an end. So you and I will be paying the prices we see in Coldwater right now. We'll be paying this $3.80, $3.90 to $4.40, $4.45 price gasoline probably till the end of the year. So some folks say, well, that's President Trump's fault. President Trump campaigned on bringing grocery prices down. He campaigned on bringing oil prices down. He campaigned on telling the American public how well the gasoline prices were when he was in his first term. And he promised that he was going to do all that. And then Israel steps in, and they no longer want to be threatened anymore as a country. And Israel was our strongest ally. They started a war with Iran, and this all happened from October 7th of 2023. So we're well into 3 years almost since October 7th, when Hamas decided to slaughter 1,300 people, men, women, and children, little babies, videotaping with GoCams and cams on their helmet and on their chest as they set on fire, chopped the heads off, and butchered children in diapers. Some of you probably don't even know that. They videotaped multiple men raping the women. and were posting it on social media live as they were doing it. So it sounds horrific, and it is. And so some of you may say, well, that's really none of our business. It happened to Israel, what we were sticking our nose in the business for. Excuse me. So why are we sticking our nose? Because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, you know what? That kind of garbage happens all the time all over the world. And the United States and citizens in the United States shouldn't have to pay for it. And we're paying for what happened because Israel decided to fight back. They decided to expand their artillery. First it was Gaza and Hamas, and then the Houthis in Yemen jumped in. And then you got Hezbollah in Lebanon, and they all started fighting Israel. Then Iran, for the first time in 3,000 years, biblically 3,000 years, started a war with Israel by launching missiles against them. And Iran is the country that constantly is protesting and screaming out, death to America, death to Israel. They want to nuke us, and they wanted to wipe Israel off the map. They, of course, joined the coalition with China and Russia and South Korea. But I want you to notice that none of those countries have jumped into the aid of helping helping Iran in this conflict. There have been rumors that there's been military equipment that's been delivered to them, but China denies that they're delivering anything to them. One of the other, number two factors that's driving the global economy on oil and why really it's selling so high and why the price is so high at the pump, first, is that there's a psychological effect that's played on by oil and refinery companies that purchase the oil. And they know that with that conflict and with the news media talking about what President Trump is doing, there's several different outlets that they can profit on. And of course, President Trump was in a meeting with the oil barons here not too long ago, telling them they were going to make a ton of money. So President Trump obviously had a plan of going into and helping Israel take care of Iran, and knew that there would be a sacrifice that would be made in the price of oil. And so Shell and BP, Marathon, Citgo, all the companies that represent these refineries and own the refineries and have the retail side too for gasoline, they're making a killing. I mean, seriously, they are they're banking big bucks, huge profits. And so it's not because there's a shortage. It's not because there's supply and demand. It's not because the economy is booming, even though the Dow closed at over 50,000 points the other day, 51,000, highest it's ever been. It's closed even higher than that. It's been fluctuating, but there's been records set since President Trump has been in office. So it has nothing to do with a shortage of oil. It has everything to do with what's going on with Iran. And now you will hear this in the news over the next few days. Now we're looking at the fact that Iran is threatening to sell all of its oil directly to Iran and directly to Russia and to South Korea. And they are only going to accept the Chinese currency. See, with Iran being bombed and not being able to sell oil to China, China imports 70% of its oil from Iran. So now China is forced to buy oil with petrodollars, which is the U.S. dollar. That's driving the value up of the U.S. dollar and reducing the value of the Chinese yuan. And so China's not really happy about that. However, many years have passed. Back in 10, 15 years ago, China was paying for oil with petrodollars. But China wanted to destabilize our dollar and be dominant, wants their currency to be a world reserve currency. President Trump knew this. China had made a deal with Venezuela and bought a bunch of oil from Venezuela prior to Chavez being taken out. And put in prison. I believe that was his name. I probably got that wrong. I believe it was Chavez. Anyway, the leader of Maduro, it was Maduro, the leader of Venezuela is still in jail with his wife and probably will be there for the rest of his life. And so we came in and we invaded a foreign country. We took its leader out of the position and his wife. And then we forced that country to clean its act up and to sell oil on the market that would give us the benefit. Actually, they're selling oil to the United States at a discount, which is what they were going to do with China. But now China is out of the picture, and the investment that they made, they're basically out of, and the United States is doing exactly what China would do. And the reason why we did that is because we wanted the oil. They've got the really sticky, crude, very thick oil that we need that turns into gasoline to drive prices down. Another geopolitical move. And, of course, Cuba. Cuba will be regenerated too. So what's that all got to do with gasoline prices? Well, as the world gets conformed with all of these different types of hypes and all of the different types of news reporting agencies, the media spinning on what's going on. Trump's bad. Trump's making the wrong decisions. The people hate it. They're hating the fact that the gas prices are so high. And then you've got the Iran conflict. It seems like Democrats and the news media are supporting more of the Iran government, who beheads and murders and executes its own citizens who refuse to bow to their rule. It seems like Democrats in Congress, and maybe some of you who are watching this video, support that more than you should in the sacrifices we're making so that Iran doesn't obtain a nuclear weapon. Because if Iran did obtain a nuclear weapon, it could be some of your relatives who would have been nuked and vaporized because of it. And if that doesn't stir your soul, you're soulless. If that doesn't make you stop and think about 9/11 and what happened way back in 9/11, and you're soulless. We don't need. I'm telling you right now, we have sleeper cells. We have terrorist sleeper cells all over this country. We could have some right here in Goldwater that are waiting to attack. I believe that something huge is going to happen. Something huge is going to happen in this country. There's going to be payback because President Trump took out the Ayatollah. And now his son is leading the country, and their currency is, I'm sure you've seen, there was a video that was out, and they're showing videos. All of the left-wing, woke, liberal, left-wing media outlets are showing all the banners that are across Iran: kill Trump, execute Trump. They were offering a $100 million reward for the execution of President Trump. But they were going to pay for it in Iranian money. So I said, well, I went to ChatGPT and I said, tell me, hey, what's Iranian money worth these days? What's the conversion rate of $100 million in Iranian money to American money? And you're not going to believe this, okay? You're not going to believe it. Do it yourself. Because of the inflation and because of the conflict and what's taking place with Iran and because of what they were doing, their currency is in the toilet. So the conversion rate, $100 million in Iranian money, converts to $73 in American money. That's how much they're in the toilet. So until Iran surrenders with the demands that are on a peace deal that President Trump wants, they will continue to bomb them. And that just gives all of the oil refineries, the oil companies, the oil refineries who turn the product into gasoline, and then the retail, everybody gets, they're saying we're going to make bank, we're going to make bank, we're going to make bank. We could charge what we want to charge for this oil, for this gasoline. We can charge whatever it is that we want to charge. And the American people will have to pay it. There will be price gouging, which there is, and the American people will have to pay it. If you think any of the retail outlets here in Coldwater or anywhere across the state or across the country, if you think they have your best interest at heart on the price of gasoline, they want you to come in and spend your money and buy gas, if you think they got your best interest at heart, you're a fool. They don't. They're there to make a profit. I mean, seriously, make a profit. Pricing keeps going up on everything at convenience stores. I'm challenging you that if you want to see those prices come down, especially with especially with the profits that retail establishments are currently making with gasoline, they relied heavily on the products that they sold outside of gasoline to make a profit. And now their entire profitability is coming off gasoline. And so they take these cards and they tell you, join the loyalty program. You could get 15, 20, 30 cents a gallon off of gasoline. If you go back and look at what it was 6 months ago, you could get 10 cents off a gallon. Because that's about what they were making for profit to lure you in to buy their overpriced product that's in the convenience store. Some of you stop at convenience stores on your way to work. You grab a Red Bull, you might grab some candy, you grab a piece of pizza, chicken, whatever it is, and you're spending $20, $25, $30 a week just on the junk that you buy at convenience stores on your way into work or on your way home. And that gets to be pretty expensive, especially when you're buying it from a convenience gas station because their prices are double or triple in some cases. So I challenge you, if you want to see gas prices come down, stop buying their junk. Buy it at Walmart or buy it at Meijer's and buy it half price. And that way you've got it and you can just take it to work with you. You don't have to stop. You'll save the time, the money, and you don't have to stop and get it from these retail establishments. They need to feel the pain. They need to feel the pain of any profit that they're making from anything based on price gouging, because that's exactly what they're doing. They're gouging the living daylights out of citizens, out of consumers. And they're doing it because they can and they don't care. And they know you have to pay for the gas. So I hope you understand that's not President Trump's fault. And why do I say that? When a country is being attacked and they're not negotiating, and the United States doesn't bring 0 gallons of oil from Iran to it, it didn't buy Iranian oil prior to the conflict, and only 7% of the oil that we produce into gasoline is shipped through the Straits of Hormuz, and now that's 0. Because across from the Straits of Hormuz is where the pipeline was ran independently by Saudi, and they're filling up the tankers now on the other side of the Straits of Hormuz. So anything that we buy from Saudi is coming out of that direction. The rest of the world, like Russia, and which sells oil, but the rest of the world, the European Union, and other parts of the world that have a higher demand of importing oil, do the same thing we do and convert it into gasoline, they're hurting. I mean, they're hurting bad because they really rely on the imports. And that's China. It really relies on the imports. So China has a plan. When this all gets said and done, and if Iran does surrender, and they surrender to the terms and conditions of what President Trump asks for, it'll just be another feather in his cap. Here just yesterday, they believe that they have a peace deal made with Hamas, completely unarming itself in Gaza, and so that Gaza can start through the peace board. Gaza can go ahead and start being rebuilt. If you if you watch my live streams on prophecies of the end times, Bible prophecy, you'll see that that's quite a huge endeavor of fulfilling Bible prophecy in the last days that we live before the return of Christ. So, bottom line is this. It is not President Trump's fault that you're paying more money at the grocery store. It's not. President Biden when he invaded, when he gave the money and the military to Ukraine, made a video. And he told the American public that there was going to be some pain. Gasoline prices were going to go up. And they did. They were up to $4.25 a gallon, just like what we see now. And it was a temporary thing. Biden said that the reason why is because Russia being attacked, and Russia being a leading global seller of oil, knew that there was going to be some difficulties ahead and being attacked, and their infrastructure being attacked by Ukraine. And so, but he said it was worth it. It had to be worth it so that the Ukrainian people could be free, have a democracy. That's exactly what's going on with President Trump in Iran. Iran was a democracy 47 years ago until Muslims came in and took it over. And just so that you know, the relationship to this is that the clerics that run Iran are all radical Islamic terrorists who believe that they need to cause chaos throughout the world to usher in the end of days and the return of Christ. No joke. Do your own research. Find out for yourself. It's not a joke. And so they're not going to give up. They may tell President Trump they want to talk and negotiate with a peace deal, but this regime is known for lying. And that's all they're going to do is lie. They've been lying the entire time. So President Trump finally got fed up with it. And until they agree with what he has demanded, they will continue to be bombarded and bombed. And it fulfills, believe it or not, I'm not going to turn this into a sermon, but it fulfills Bible prophecy. So I want to thank you for tuning in. I don't believe one iota for 1 minute that the prices that have gone up is a direct cause of the President of the United States and what he decided to do to protect our country. It is a sacrifice for many of us to have to pay the dollar amount that we're paying to be reassured that a country who hates us, wants to bomb us, wants to annihilate us, vaporize us, and doesn't get the opportunity to do so by having a nuclear weapon. So thanks for tuning in. Share this video and like it. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube and make any comments you'd like to do so in reference to what I discovered. And maybe you can give your explanation as to the reason why gas prices are so high and whether President Trump needs to be blamed. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Mike Parker.